about that time that we were making all these things, we were doing it in Mountain View in a small place. Vince Borelli, I met him at a convention. He was selling things for Craftsman Electronics, the Mezzolingua family. And they had recently sold the business to Magnavox. And he didn't think that he was going to be able to stay on the West Coast. He was a Syracuse guy, but he didn't want to move there, or actually a southern New York guy, Binghamton. He didn't want to move back to Syracuse or wherever Craftsman or Magnavox was. He had no interest in that. He liked California. So I hired him, and he started selling things for us. We had a hell of a time, but we started... He made some contacts with some guys up in the East Bay, and they bought a few things, UHF converters. So we built them, and they worked pretty good. So one of the guys that I met through Vince was the guy at Gill Cable, who they were building this dual cable system in San Jose. It was Bob Cowart. Bob was the I don't know what his title was, but he's vice president and basically the guy in charge of putting a system together. A highly experienced cable guy. Bob was an interesting man. He really was. Very, very smart. Very smart. And he always had interesting ideas, and he'd run ideas, and so we took it down. We took a UHF converter down to him, and he absolutely lambasted it. He told us everything that was wrong. It was packaged wrong. It was this. It was that. And I was like, wow, okay. But it was, it was the beginning of an understanding that, I guess that's just the way it was. Because about a week after that review, I get a call from a guy by the name of Dick Walters that said he's a sales manager for Scientific Atlanta, cable TV products. Oh, really? Yeah. And he said, Bob Cowart said that you have a real nice UHF converter, and we need one. We need a couple of different kinds of things. So I said, well, how would you like to proceed? He said, well, we'd like to look at one and see what it does. And I said, well, I'll bring one back. So I put one in a box, got on a plane, and I remember arriving there at like 4 in the morning and waiting for the doors to open. Didn't have a lot of money at the time, for sure. And I went in, and that's where I met guys like Jay Levergood, who ultimately became CEO of Scientific Atlanta. Alex Best, who became VP of Engineering for Cox. But Jimmy Farmer, who worked for Alex. A lot of guys. Tom Smith. All the founders of Scientific Atlanta. Jack Kelly and Glenn Robinson. Sid Topol, who they hired to make it a real company. And they were doing $3 million in the CATV business at the time. They were primarily an antenna test equipment manufacturer. They measured antenna patterns. They had equipment. So somehow they got in the cable business. Anyway, that began quite a relationship as far as long term. We built all kinds of products for those guys that plug in UHF converters for their processors, plug in return band converters for their modulators, a whole lot of different things that transpired with those people over the years, along with the UHF converters. So,
what was it that, why didn't they do this themselves?
Well, it wasn't a lot at the time. They were trying to do their own set-top boxes. They were basically just getting into line equipment, and they recognized the fact that, we had some expertise that they didn't have to, so that they just, went along with that for a long time. That lasted probably 7 or 8 years at least, maybe even longer, probably closer to 10. The almost the entire life of Tomco. We had that relationship. Along about the same time, I had sent letters to people in the business, and one of them I'd sent a letter to was a fellow out of Canada by the name of Israel Switzer, who was called Sruki for whatever reason. And he was another one of these guys that, a highly technical guy. The Canadians always looked down their nose at U.S. cable guys because they thought they were superior. Maybe they were, as far as technically. He was a very sharp guy. And he had sent me a casting of a Jerrold processor, Jerrold being the big equipment manufacturer at the time. He said, if you can put a UHF converter in this, it'd be very useful to me. So I did. And I don't know if he ever bought any, but other people did. And because it's something that Jerrold didn't have a very good one at the time. They had some tunable thing. This was crystal controlled. So that got us into the Jerrold module business, which we then developed a bunch of things for their processors, and that's what started the tunable modules for standby applications, where you could tune all channels, input VHF, input UHF, output 12 channels, standby where if you lost a module.
And that was a big deal because at the time you'd have to order a special channel, right?
Every channel needed a spare. And of course, that basically became the basis of the entire company, was those kind of products. We ultimately had what was the SR1000, which was any channel in, any channel out, standby processor,